This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
Yes, thanks so much for tuning into this conversation with guitarist extraordinaire Miles Dimitri Baker. Miles used to be in Rings of Saturn, and I had a conversation about the album that he released with his former bandmate, Lucas Mann. All to Alla is the name of that album back in 2017. So it was great to finally catch up with Miles and see what he was doing post Rings of Saturn, which is with Interloper, and the catalyst for this conversation. The debut album from the group is out right now. It's called Search Party. We talk about the album in this chat, of course we would, Rings of Saturn, Lucas Mann, and a few other topics thrown in as well. As you can expect, or long-time listeners to the show will know that I don't conduct interviews. I have conversations, and here's another great example of it with Miles Dimitri Baker, formerly of Rings of Saturn, now his new group, Interloper. Hey, mate.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Mate, I tell you what, I've just been stood up by Adrian Erlandson, who was the drummer in Cradle of Filth and the current drummer in At the Gates and The Haunted for the second day in a row. But that's all good. I get to chat to you.
You guys, it didn't line up?
Well, a bit like me. I don't know what the hell has been going on. Just, it's not. So with you, I apologise in advance about the fuck up there with the timing. It was just I was using a world clock that just wasn't right. Clearly, wasn't aligning our time zones. But with Adrian, I don't know what it is. It's just one of those things where he wasn't able to make the chat yesterday, and unable to make the chat today. But the problem is, it's like it was 4:30 a.m. for me. So
shit. Yeah, that sucks. That's upsetting.
Yeah, I know. Look, honestly, I'm not saying I'm used to it, but I'm pretty resilient with these things, and I've become a bit of a Cradle of Filth, and I hope I can bestow this title on myself, subject matter expert, from the perspective that I've interviewed. At this point in time, it's approaching 10 band members, past and present. And Miles, there is a hell of a story there, I can tell you. And I'm trying to write a book about it, but I need to get some of the ex-members on board.
Yeah, I'm sure, dude. And I mean, I don't know exactly what story you're talking about when there's that many members, it's like there's usually something.
Yeah, and believe me, and some of them have been prepared to go. Some of them have even had the chat with me, and they've been prepared to go on record, and others have said, right, you seem like a decent enough chap, so I'm going to tell you what really happened in the band, but you are not allowed to share this, and I will never break the covenant of trust between myself and an interview subject, I can tell you, or a person I'm having a chat with. I'm just not that guy, right? I fucking hate metal injection and all of that crap, because you've been through it. I know you've been through it, mate.
Yeah, I've had some metal injection articles for sure, but I mean, it wasn't really because of like me, it was just like association.
Oh, I know, but you tarnished by association, if you like. And I had a chat to Lucas about 2 years ago about everything that was happening. And it was interesting getting his insight, but he was one of the ones that actually approved the episode to be released as a podcast on my podcast. So I think he dived deeper in the chat with me than he did with anybody else. And I think it was the first round of interviews that he'd done since he effectively decided to get back into the public domain. So
he vanished for a while.
Yeah, are you guys still mates? Are you guys still chatting?
I mean, not so much. We don't hate each other or anything. Just don't have anything to talk about. It's one of those things. It's like
look, I absolutely know we're here to talk about your extraordinary album here, Search Party. But the thing that I noticed about Lucas and Rings of Saturn recently, and you probably saw it too, was that Nuclear Blast dropped them. And the reasons were extremely, they're controversial to say the bloody least, but I noticed not many news articles, news sites, blabbermouth or what have you picked it up. I couldn't believe that. It was sent to me in advance. He heads up, here it comes. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to drop like a bomb. Hardly anybody picked it up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe people are tired of it. I don't know. It's not really how it works, but I think maybe it's just like fucking again. Like another thing. People are just like over it.
Yeah. Look, these things, as you well know, the music industry is one of the most dynamic industries you can be a part of. It's ever evolving and changing, and musicians, as you well know too, are pains in the goddamn ass. People are in general, but it's especially magnified when you're a musician.
Yeah, definitely. You can get away with a lot more. You can be kind of insane, and it's like whatever. But it's not like really how it works in like real life. No,
indeed, mate. Yeah. So look, I've got to say, congratulations first up on finding other musicians. On that note, to collaborate and create another outfit after what I feel was the extraordinary success musically and critically speaking of All Too Walla. And I know you had a heavy hand in that album's conception and the creation of that album. So look, I do take it that Interloper is you rebounding from leaving Rings of Saturn, and it's your first foray, if you like, into doing your own thing since then.
Yeah. I mean, Loper had been in some capacity around long before I joined Rings. Okay. But we just got busy with other things. We didn't have like a full band either, we didn't have a full lineup. So it was just kind of like a pending thing. I was like, we'll put out like some tech death singles and just like instrumental stuff. And then we would get busy with other bands touring and stuff. And it just kind of sat on the back burner. And then after the whole Rings ship sailed, it was like, okay, well, it's probably time to do this. And prior to that, we had gotten Andrew on board. And, we started kind of like writing actual like songs, that weren't just like instrumental things. It was like becoming like a band. And so that was kind of how that started, and then once the Ring ship was over, it was like, oh, this is the obvious next step. And it's like our own thing, it's not like someone else's band. So,
you feel like as though you got more control and ownership of this one from the sounds of things.
Well, like matter of fact. Yeah. It's like, it definitely is that way. And that's good. It's like, it's weird being in someone else's band where you are like an outsider almost, unless that's like how it is from the get-go, like that's fine. Plenty of people hire on like, oh yeah, I'm in this band, but like, it's not my band, but that's like how it is presented from the get-go, so it's not so weird. But yeah, it's nice. And just, being able to make sure things get done right and, trying to keep everyone happy in the group and, getting everyone's input, it's just, it's a functioning, like group of people, and I think that's a big thing. Because you need sometimes, you need to be like, hey, dude, like pull it together, or what do you think about this? You're just bouncing ideas, and then over a conversation, you end up like, wow, I wish, but like I'm glad we talked about this because these ideas came up, and that's how we like move forward. Most of that stuff is behind the scenes, so to speak. It's like internal stuff or like strategy basically, it's like how you release stuff, what videos we can do, things like that. That's stuff where it's nice to put your heads together.
How did the relationship, so that's probably a better question, is you obviously continued your relationship in some way with Nuclear Blast, so that's how you were able to release the album through them again? Yeah,
absolutely. We kept, we worked with them for a while. We did a lot of the press for that O2 record, like most of the press actually. And so we had a relationship, and, we just like the record did well. We knew them, and, we're in communication in some way, shape or form off and on throughout the entire time that Rings was with that label. And so when we weren't there anymore and we had a new band, it wasn't like they were signing on like a group of noobs who they don't know how they work or like what they can do or anything like that, so that's good. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, everyone starts there at some point, but we already had, like a rapport, so to speak. Like they knew that they could trust us to like get something done. It wasn't just like, oh, maybe. So
yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? Because Nuclear Blast is probably, in my opinion, the preeminent metal label around in 2021. Certainly got some of the greatest metal bands of all time on the label at the moment. And of course, they just simply don't sign shit. Certainly from the perspective that there's quality there. It's just whether or not you tuned in as a fan to what the bands are doing on the label.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are a lot of bands with a lot of different styles, which is cool. I think that's a good thing. And that's a lot to operate and keep track of, and they seem to do a pretty good job of it. So I like them. Yeah.
Well, I think they would have probably picked up Search Party anyway, even if you didn't have that relationship, because look, it's high quality. But the first characteristic that hit me was how proggy it was. So, I mean, we had a chat about 3 or 4 years ago for All Too Wallow, whenever that was released, and which is just a tech death masterpiece in many ways. But this being proggy, this shows another side of you. So, did you write most of the material?
Andrew actually ended up doing a bit more than me on this one, which was cool. And, like partially like when we started writing, I was kind of going through things and was absent for a bit of it, but definitely, a lot of it was collaborative, even if like, for example, like I brought a tune to the table, ever it's like, hey guys, here you go. Like, what do you want to do? And that's kind of how the process works with everything, even if it's like, say like Pathkeeper, for example, that was one like Andrew and I sat down and wrote together. I went over to his house and like, we started on it, and then like the next day we pretty much had it, maybe listened to it a couple of times, and I was like, yeah, maybe changing these few things and it's done. And then tunes like saying, Wishing Well was like primarily like one of mine, and then we went through like revisions. And same thing, like Search Party was like an Andrew tune, for example. And that one I remember was like a huge like battle, it was like battle of everyone. Aaron and Andrew were like at odds with that one for a while. So it depends on the tune, it ends up being collaborative for the most part, but generally like the ideas come from one or another, and then, occasionally both. But long story short, I think Andrew had another like tune and a half than me on this one, And
Okay.
that was just how it went with like where I was. I think next record's going to be a bit different, but just like really work together. And I think we're like all in a better place now as a group to, build a function and do that. So it's just
I was going to say that with the fact that you haven't written as much as what Andrew has, it means that the next album sounds like it could be a Miles tour de force, given the tunes that you have within you that are yet to be released.
Yeah, but I mean, it'll all sound very cohesive. This record was pretty cohesive too. I mean, the songs are all different. It's not just like the same type of song over and over again, which is great. And like, I don't want to put out a record that's like that, where it's like the same song over and over again, whether it's like structurally or like how it feels, like tunes say, like I'm trying to think of some like the darker ones, say like Cheshire, or maybe like Bound to Fall versus maybe like Wishing Well or like Drift, like those are like, they're different songs. Or like, dude, Drift and Search Party, like right there, that's a great example, night and day. And I think that's good, but it sounds like the same band. And so I think it'll end up being a situation like that again, because we've pretty much honed in like what we want to do, what we want to sound like, things we like, things we don't like. And we've already started writing, for the next record. We already have the better part of like 7 songs.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's already like a lot done. It's exciting. Yeah, it's like we're already excited about the next record, and this one just came out like less than a week ago.
Yeah, you got to keep the train rolling though, haven't you? There's sort of like a 12-month to 18-month release window afterwards in order for, in this day and age I'm talking about, unless you're Tool or some band like that. Yeah,
and I would like to do singles in between, like in between records, or maybe those singles end up being on the next record. I don't know. Yes. I mean, that even gets into like strategy stuff. Like, how does this work? Because I know like Gojira, for example, when they put out, what was that song called? Another World. Mm-hmm. That was like totally standalone. I don't think that was mentioned that was going to be on the record or anything. So it was just like, here's a single to like hold you over. And then it's like, oh shit, that ends up being on the record. And that's kind of cool. And there's definitely more to it than just like releasing music. There's like strategy involved with that. And I think that's something that's interesting that bands should pay attention to. There's a reason bands and like artists specifically say like, rap artists, it's all singles, and then a record at the end of it. I think there's a bigger reason for that.
Deaf Heaven, to your exact point, Deaf Heaven did something similar in 2014 when they released From the Kettle to the Coil, which is extremely heavy for them. It was more like a Slayer song or something like that in terms of what they normally do, that black shoegaze thing that they do. And I thought For All Money it signaled a change in direction to more heavier material. And then they released, I can't remember the name there, the Extraordinary album they released in 2014. So they released, might have been 13 they released From the Kettle to the Coil. Then it was 14, it was the album, or 15, wherever it was the follow-up after that. But it was different. It sort of threw me off a little bit that they did that. But I think what you're able to do then is you attract people's attention with standalone singles that have nothing to do with any album. And it's like, what the hell is going on here? And it builds people's curiosity.
Yeah, and dude, I mean, people don't want to wait like a year and a half, 2 years for a record. It's like, it doesn't work that way. And like, for example, like streaming numbers, like first week stuff, I'm imagining this is something I've been thinking about is like, when you put a single out, say like Gojira, like Another World, granted they're like a big enough band, like it doesn't fucking matter. So I don't know if I can swear on this, sorry. It doesn't matter for them.
No, you can swear, go for it. It's no dramas.
Okay, yeah. So like it doesn't matter for them because they're a big enough band. They're gonna put a record out, people are gonna buy it and go see their shows. It doesn't matter. But for other bands who are like struggling for like, first week sales, and granted that seems to be less and less of a thing. There's some big bands that I know of, for example, who only sold like a couple thousand copies first week, which is like crazy low. But like that didn't stop them from doing anything they were doing and continuing to grow. So I think that's becoming like, a thing of the past. But point being, for those singles that go out, I'm assuming that counts towards like the first week. So they put a single out 6 months in advance, and then another one, and then it's like, oh, those end up being on the record. Boom, first week. You're already like at 1 million streams. Or like copies sold, whatever the equivalent like turnover of like streams to like a CD sale is. So that's interesting stuff to think about. I mean, it's not really exciting. Like no one really cares about that aside from anyone who's like involved like in the business. Like fans don't give a shit. And why would they? Like they shouldn't care about that. They should just care about the music. That's what's important. So that's interesting stuff to think about. There's so much more to it than just, your music. There's a lot of, you can have the greatest music and like go about releasing it in like a horrific way. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It's weird.
Yeah. And
it's weird. It's like sad is what it is. It's sad that that's how it works. It's not based on like sheer quality anymore, but that's okay.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I think the advantage for a band like yourself and a musician like you is that there's been a flattening of the music industry. I think Cannibal Corpse, their most recent album, because I just spoke to Eric Rutan, that I think that's their highest debut ever. It debuted at 5 or 6 on the bloody main charts there in the US. So
that's awesome. That's so cool to see that, man. That is so cool to see stuff like that happening. When the top 10 or 20 or whatever, top 200 is just like, it's like what you'd expect to be on there, like pop country, rock bands. It's cool to see these like heavy bands, like, breaking through that, like making their way to the front of the line. It's awesome. And that's something that I think, a lot of people say, oh, metal's dead and this and that. It's like, really? Is it? Like, have you seen these bands that play arenas? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Metal is not like dead. It's like an underground thing, but people really like underestimate the size of these bands, like their career bands. These dudes aren't going to fucking work again, like they're not going to go be a cashier somewhere, like they have a career. Exactly. And there's so many bands that even you haven't like heard of, I have friends of mine in the band just released a record and it's like currently like above Metallica. I think granted that Metallica record's like, 30 years old, but still Metallica, and they're like, above them. It's like, that totally happens. It's not unheard of, but that's not what you'll be seeing on like, TMZ or like whatever, whatever like music source you pay attention to. So it's cool. It's like cool. Underdog, the underdogs are doing it. It's cool.
The enduring success of Metallica's Black Album. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing for metal, to be honest with you, because that just seems to be in the top 10 constantly. It's like Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah,
or dear. I mean, think about like the Beatles or something, they have songs from like 40 years ago that are still, it's like they're just like cemented there. It's just always going to be huge. I think that's cool. And I think, there aren't too many bands that are like that, where it's like these groups that put out a record or like a song that is just like unreasonably fucking popular, it just like will never go away. That's cool, and that's really, I think that's something that should be like appreciated, whether there's like external forces, like, big companies like pushing that kind of thing for that to stay there, or it's just them, that's something that everyone should look at, I think, and be like, man, that's really cool. Like maybe that could be us one day, maybe not, probably not, but just the goal, knowing that exists, I think is something that's exciting. It's like, that's attainable. People have done that.
Indeed. So just going back to Search Party then, was there a concept or a theme that you wanted to address throughout the album?
I mean, most of the songs, it wasn't like a pre-planned thing, where it was like, this is what we're going to write this album about. It wasn't one of those type of situations. But the overarching theme is, just like being a human, human emotion, things you experience as, living life, happiness, sadness, loss, grief, stuff like that. And so that's, pretty much the theme that it ties in all the songs, but I wouldn't say there was a pre-planned thing. They ended up being about that. And after the fact, a lot of it, like the title Search Party, that was from a song, that was a song name. And that song name, did after, we had this collection of tunes, it was like, this is pretty representative of, what we went through. We went through member changes. We went through, trying to write styles of music that were like, okay, this is going to be cool. We want to do this. And we're writing, like doing things that we're really into. And then it ends up like, it's all, it's like, let's go back to like doing what we're like really good at and enjoy. And so it was, loosely a search party, to figure out everything we needed to do to get to where we're at and be happy with this product. And as far as like the album art goes, with like the girl on the cover, that song is about a woman, you can think about it with like anyone, everyone's kind of been through this or known someone like this where they are basically their actions are destroying everything around them. They're like trying to have a way to fix their issues and they're searching towards, in this case, the end of the earth to fix them. And they cannot because they've left just like a wake of destruction in their path with whether it's like friendships or their life or like, where they live, whatever. So that's like the main theme you would picture from this by looking at the cover, maybe reading the lyrics to that. But the rest of the songs do definitely pertain to the human condition, so to speak. The
human condition, yes.
Yeah, the human condition of happiness, of being happy, being sad, being, extremely happy, being even more sad, and just like different things you touch on that, where there's like relationship stuff too. There's some stuff in this record about that, not even just like a boyfriend, girlfriend type thing, but just like relational, between anyone.
Yeah, anyone. Yeah, I get it.
I think that's cool. And that's something that's relatable, man. It's not this like huge abstract thought where you need to be, high on fucking acid to like figure it out. It's like, that's not that. We don't want to do that. We want it to be, something everyone can relate with and be happy, or like understand and feel a connection to these songs, because if you write something that's too abstract and people can't connect to it, it's kind of weird, and I've never been into that personally as well. So.
I get it. Yeah. It's interesting you touch on the human condition though, because it's the one thing, no matter who you are on the planet, where you come from, religious, cultural, ethnic boundaries, it crosses over everything insofar as we're all affected by it.
Yep.
And in our relationship with us, our relationship with other people and how other people relate to us, and indeed how we manage the challenges in our lives.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. And that's what a lot of these songs touch on, dude. It's all stuff that you, as a relatively like normal functioning person, will eventually go through. You're always going to have to deal with the situation that this record does touch on.
Yeah, are you religious in any way?
No, not really. Mm-mm.
Spiritual in any way again?
Mildly, yeah, not heavily, but I definitely there have been things that have happened in my life where it's like, this might be a little bit more than a coincidence, and that's happened, enough times to consider, something else. But I don't really spend a whole lot of time thinking about it. It's not something I occupy my, mental energy with because I don't know. I'm not going to find an answer.
It's pointless. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. Yeah. It's pointless. Because we're not meant to hear the question. Just experience life as it comes to us.
Yeah. And I think being like open to that and thinking about it is good. I think being like super closed off to it is strange, but that's also, very reasonable because it's a living life matter of fact, it is good because you're always going to weigh out your options. Like this is this way or this is not, and you don't have any sort of, I think some people can get clouded with that kind of stuff, whether it's religion or, being spiritual. Their judgment in situations isn't them, they're not making the call. They're letting something else make the call for them. And I don't think that's necessarily the best. I mean, it can be fine, but I've definitely seen situations or been around people where they do that. And it's like, are you sure? Are you sure that's what you should do? It doesn't really seem right, and they're just like letting something else take the wheel of their life. And it's kind of weird.
I've asked this question a lot, by the way, but how do you put up with people on the road? What are the coping mechanisms you've got?
Put up with people like my bandmates or other people on the tour, or just like
basically anybody you've got to stay in a band with. It can be other bands, road crew, fellow bandmates. I mean, do you have like coping strategies like retreating into your Kindle or your books or something like that to sort of just keep yourself calm and centered in those moments?
Well, it depends where we're playing. That's a big thing, because if we're in some like middle of nowhere spot and there's like nothing to do, then you're just kind of stuck. So maybe like play guitar, or like get my phone, maybe like try to watch a movie, or if someone's got like a game console, like play video games or something. But something I do to kind of get away and have space is I like to like go walk. Not for exercise. I don't walk to be like, look at me being healthy. Like I'll go walk like to get somewhere. Say like in Europe, like we're a mile from the like city center. Like I'll just go, get my stuff into the venue, get my bags, organized, just like get all my shit in one spot. And then I will take off and go walk around, look at the city. And generally I end up doing that by myself. And not because I want to like be by myself. I'm like, oh, I need the space. That's just like, I enjoy that. And I'm like, okay, no one's coming with me. I'm going to still go either way. And I do that. But generally, there's not really like anything bad that happens. It's not like, God, I can't, be around these guys today. I've been in situations like that, but that's pretty uncommon. So when that's happening, it's kind of like an extraordinary circumstance. But if you are, anytime you're around someone constantly, or a group of dudes, you do need space, because people do kind of get on each other's nerves. But I don't have there's no big coping mechanism, I don't have like a big problem with it, So I guess not so much, but just small things, keep time to yourself, make phone calls to friends, just stay in touch with other people and or yourself.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably the best way to describe it.
You come across anything interesting or unusual in your walks outside of the, if you're in Rome, you're seeing some interesting landmarks like the Vatican or something like that. Have you seen like people have recognized you, that sort of thing happen?
Yeah, I've had people recognize me. Definitely, that's been something that's happened, and that's always cool. Yesterday I was out at the dinner, the afternoon dinner, I guess, getting drinks and stuff. But one of the bus boys, the dudes like clean the tables and shit, came up and he's like, "Dude, I love Interloper." I was like, "How cool!" That's all. I was like, "You too." I love it too. But that was cool, and that does happen. But I've seen just like a lot of really beautiful places, especially like in Europe. Because living in America, there's a lot of really cool stuff here. But we don't have like 900-year-old buildings. It's just not here. There's like cave stuff, like indigenous people, or like like Native American stuff that's older. But walking around in Europe, you're looking at these like monumental cathedrals that are, like 300 feet tall, and they're built like 1,000 years ago. It's like, this is crazy. It's like, how did they do this? It's insane. And so I really like that. But as far as anything like really strange, dude, I'm sure I have. I just don't remember. I know I've seen weird things. Just been like, what the fuck is going on here? Like people interactions, probably like homeless people fighting or something. There's like weird stuff like that. But nothing sticks out off the top of my head. It's usually like the architecture, like the feel of the city. Different cities feel different ways outside of like the people there. It's not just like these people here are making you feel this way. It's, the architecture, just the layout, it gives you a feeling. It's cool.
Hey, just talking about your guitar playing specifically, because you do have an extraordinary command of the instrument. So on Search Party, were there any new techniques or styles that you deployed that were effectively your first foray into doing something like that and putting it on record?
I think like the soloing in places was something that I, expanded on, did things that were a little bit different. Like in Moonlight, I have 2 solos in that song, and those are things that were outside of like my realm of something I would normally do, prior to this record. And so it wasn't like a new technique. It was a new like approach, more so. That stuff I realized more. I don't think there were any like techniques on the record that were like, wow, I've never done this before. That I can think of. It's been so long, it doesn't feel new for me anymore if there are. But it was mostly just like writing, compositional stuff or like phrasing.
Sorry, my camera will come back.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's like compositional stuff or like approaches to like, maybe like voicings, just stuff like that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I haven't listened to it enough yet to make broad comparisons between it and All Too Well, except that the quality's there. I know that because the songwriting is excellent and the execution of your solos is absolutely on point again. So are you still providing lessons? Are you still doing the lessons? Because as I say, we spoke about 4 years ago and you were doing a lot of lessons back then. Yeah, I still teach, man. I do. It's been slow right now. I haven't really been posting a whole lot of guitar content or like making videos because I got really like the later part, like mid last year, I think was when it happened. I just got
I just got fucking burnt out, dude. I was like, I'm so tired of like making videos and doing this stuff. And, you know, I hadn't even like grind. I mean, I guess I've been making videos for a while, you know, like many years, but like the production type videos where I have multi angles, I got the backdrop, got the, you know, DSLR, I'm going to edit it, like a whole thing. It's not just like put my phone up and take a video. And so I got burnt on that and it just kind of took the fun out of it, which, you know, in turn, you know, I'm not putting out guitar videos, less people are taking lessons. And that happened around the time where we like tracked the record and did all of that. So, you know, it's kind of got busy. And then we had a little bit of a break where that was done and, you know, I was posting a little bit more and it picked back up. But then come this, you know, cycle for the album, we've got a bunch of other stuff going on, just like behind the scenes stuff, man. Like recently, like merch orders, just like doing all these different things, like to get an album out, you know, and I'm like, I don't want to play guitar. I'm just like, good, you know, it's not like I dislike it. I'm like, I'm really excited to play. It just, you know, I don't like to go. It makes me not have fun, you know, with guitar. So if I'm like forcing myself to do it, not so much. But now that this album's out, I'm planning on making a bunch more content. I've had a nice break. I'm sure I'll be teaching more because that's usually how it goes.
Yeah, no,
it's crazy how it works, right? You post videos about lessons and people take them. And you don't post videos and no one's taking lessons.
I'm with you. One of the key reasons I wanted this to be a video is because I'm about half a dozen episodes into the YouTube content that I've been posting. I've been doing the podcast for about 4 years at this point.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
And I look, one thing I can tell you is that the podcast has been a success, obviously, so if I'm still doing it. But YouTube, you get like, I don't know, 1,000 views in 3 days. And for me, as a basic nobody, you know, I mean, you're the star in these interactions, the musician is. I think, wow, okay, so I can't ignore video. It's just the thing that people seem to want to tune into. And if you're not doing video, you're effectively not competing. Yeah,
well, dude, you know, like even like looking at you right now, we're not sitting face to face, but, you know, as close as we can, you know, on the internet. There's more to it than that. There's emotion and you get to see someone's face in there, you know, gestures and, you know, like when they laugh, you know, there's a human element to it that isn't quite there when it's just a voice, which granted, like podcasts that are just audio only can be great, you know, and it's nice and it almost makes your brain like create what you want to see from these people, you know, which is kind of cool. But seeing this, it's a lot more like it's personal, you know. I think that's something that video definitely offers that audio only does not.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Hey, just about the album again. What was it like working with, and I might mispronounce the surname here, but Joey Virueta?
Yeah, Joey. So Joey's Andrew's brother, actually. And
okay. There you go.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't coincidence that they both had the same last name. It's definitely his brother. And we've been having Joey like mix tunes of ours forever. And Andrew and Joey grew up playing music together. Joey's an amazing songwriter and singer and a good guitar player too. It's just like the whole family, like all the kids are just like great. Sister's a good singer. They all just like play music and they're good at it. And so Joey's really been good at production. And we had done stuff with him off and on, and it just started getting like better and better. Not that it was ever not great to begin with, but it just started like really getting good. And we're like, oh man, like we should maybe have him do our record. And we got a couple mixes from him, you know, right before we had tracked like the finals, and it was like, yeah, let's pull the trigger. Let's have Joey do it. And he offers a lot of insight and has ideas and, you know, things like I don't personally think about because I don't do like, you know, I'm not like an engineer, you know, I don't mix, you know, to that level of like, you know, pro quality. Like, let's release this record and let people listen to it on any device and it's going to sound okay. So he has a lot of insight to things that are going to work better and do that, even like writing, you know, arrangement ideas or like, what if you tried this, you know? So it was really good working with him, and I like him a lot, and I would definitely be down to, you know, probably do something with him again in the future.
Oh, wicked.
I think we all would. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, congratulations on what Search Party sounds like. I'll wrap things up, but before we do, is there any questions that I haven't asked that and any points that you want to address before we do wrap up?
Just the companies we work with, you know, like Schecter, Elixir, Seymour Duncan, HOSA, you know, they provide, and on Andrew's end and Aaron's, you know, you got Legator, Fishman, Tama, Vinyl, Vic Firth, Remo. You know, those companies provide us with all the things that we need to like make this happen, you know, and not spend, you know, a ton of money doing it because it would be expensive, you know, and we're really lucky to have people who have our back like that. And so that's a big thing I always like to mention, you know, and Another thing would be like all the merch and pre-orders, and, thanks to all the fans who bought this record, before it even came out, and like merch bundles. I mean, there was a lot of merch sales, and it was not what was anticipated. I didn't expect people to do it that much. It was like, wow, people really care. And so I hope people enjoy the record that now that it's out and they can hear it in its entirety. And I hope we didn't let anyone down. I don't think we did. I'm really proud of this record. I think it's great. So those are a couple key things I always like to mention. That caught me off guard, especially now that the record's out, seeing like everything leading up to that. I was proud. Merch sales are crazy. And now that we passed that point where it came out, it was just like, I can't believe that happened. It was so cool. But that's about it. I don't think there's anything else to really touch on with the record. It's out now.
It is out now. People can have a listen to it. To your point about the merch game is on point. But there is one final point that I'd like to make, which is that I'd love to see you guys tour with Wes Hawk and the guys in Alluvial. That'd be an awesome package.
I've definitely thought about that. That's something I talked to Wes. I mean, not about a tour, but we talk off and on, and he's a buddy. And I mean, that would be cool if that was something that happened. We're on the same label, all the same people, we like each other's playing. I think that guy's a monster guitar player. That guy is just nuts. That guy is so good. It's like crazy, So that'd be cool. And the new record's amazing, man. I listened to it on a drive a couple weeks ago. Not a couple weeks ago, maybe like a week and a half ago, like right when it came out. And front to back, I was just like, wow. This is really good. And it's playing on it's just monstrous, dude. Guitar solos and like the mix in it, for example, something that I love, and it's just like a power move is having your guitar solos just like cranked in a mix. It's like everyone's going to hear every single note in this. Nothing's hidden. And he's playing like ridiculous stuff on top of that. So it's cool.
Yeah. Well, I think we're blessed at the moment to have guitarists such as yourself and Wes, mate. Long may you continue to do what you're doing. And the other thing, mate, whenever this COVID bullshit is over, and fingers crossed that is soon, love to see you guys down here. Me
too, man. I mean, things, I don't know how it is where you're at, but where we're at, for example, like Southern California, and I guess California as a whole, like, if you wear a mask anymore, that's gone. I mean, I think people are like who work are still going to have to wear one, mostly in fear of their company being canceled for not having their employees wear one. I think that's a big factor. So anyone who's working anywhere is probably doomed. But anyone else everywhere, you don't have to wear one. The cases are, down, and it's like, becoming like a totally like reasonable thing now. It's like, people still get the Black Plague. Like it fucking happens, like I think it's like 88 or like, it's like 88 was an over I saw that might be like a cat thing that happened. There was somewhere in the United States where there's like a bunch of cats had the plague and they were like carrying the virus around. But I know. Yeah. And then, I think the number is like 200 people a year, like in the United States, like still get that. That happens. So hopefully this will just turn into one of those things where it's, it's like the flu. People get the flu all the time.
I agree.
Just fucking happens. I don't know. You just got to do it. You can't be scared forever, and people need to go back to being normal. So hopefully, like you said, we can go back out and tour. And I think if these tours that are booked right now for like the near future, like July, August, September, if those happen, I think it's going to be like full on, dude. It's just going to be like everyone's on tour. It's going to be so cool. And agents are still scared to like book stuff. Like the agents have like rescheduled tours like 3 times. They're like, fuck it, I'm waiting. And so I think once that happens, green light, man. So hopefully we'll get out your way.
Well, good luck with it, man. Congratulations on the album again. And look, I appreciate the chat, man. It's been a pleasure the second time around. I would never expect you to remember the first one, given how much press you do. But I enjoyed the first chat, and I've got to say the second chat was even better. So thanks very much, brother.
That's very kind of you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. When this whole thing goes up, just send me a message or like email me, and I'll be sure to share it up.
For sure. We'll do.
I've had a bunch of people. I've done like a bunch of press, and I'd be like, yeah, man, when it goes up, just let me know. I don't fucking see anything. They're like, the album's out. I haven't seen anything. Where do you find this? Because I want to share it because it's cool. It's about our album. And, this is cool stuff. I always liked watching this kind of stuff with people I grew up listening to, bands I liked. I was like, man, I want to see this. So.
No, I jump on things because I try to get within sort of 48, 72 hours. I try to get things out. So I'm talking to Kai Hansen from Halloween tonight. He's the fourth member of Halloween that I'm talking to. So, mate, I do so much of this stuff, like 5 or 6 of them in a week, 7 or 8 sometimes, that if I don't get on top of it very quickly, it blows out to like sometimes a month. So I know that with me, with raising kids and professional commitments and running a household and all of that sort of stuff, that if I don't get on top of it very quickly, like probably today. It will take it just another one sort of goes in, and then it's like boom, boom, boom. And
man, that's absolutely how it works, dude. Same thing like shooting videos and stuff on my end, man. If I like shoot something and like I'll edit it later, it's just like a week later.
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I just don't want to do it anymore. It's just like stacking on your shoulders, and you just like feel this like looming like debt that you have to like your work. You're like, oh, it's horrible, but that's awesome, man. Just let me know what's up.
Will do, brother. I'll send you an email for sure. Rest assured.
All right, sounds great, man. Are we all good?
Thanks very much, mate. Appreciate it. I love the chat. Thanks so much again.
Same here, man. Should I hang up or are you talking after this? Some people.
Oh, no, it's all right. I'll end it now. So all good. Done.
Okay, man. Take care.
Thanks, brother. Catch you. Well, there you have it. The conversation featuring Miles Dimitri Baker, formerly of Rings of Saturn. Nowadays, he's in Interloper. Hope you enjoyed that one. Because if you did, there are plenty more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com. Look up the Whooshka widget. Over 550 interviews with the stars of rock, heavy metal, extreme metal, punk rock, and beyond. My name's Andrew Mackay Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. Thanks for tuning in.